Okay, we're gonna take a break from heavy or controversial or any of that stuff. We're just gonna have some fun. So I don't usually do any kind of prediction, speculation, anything like that, really at all. It's something I've never really gotten into, and I don't know what made me want to just sort of throw my thoughts about what I think is coming down the pike for Game of Thrones, but why not? Let's give it a go. And I'm gonna just jump around. And obviously, spoilers for anyone who's not caught up. I'm recording this as of the first episode of Series 7 having aired. So that's where I am as I'm saying this stuff, and I want to get this out before any more episodes air so we can see if any of this stuff is going to happen. So let's talk about some characters and whether or not they're going to live. I want to start with the one that I am most certain is going to be dead by the end of this season, and that's Cersei. Cersei Lannister. There's no way she's making it to the end of this season because it's a practical thing, because right now she is kind of the major human villain who is left. I mean, there's a ton of smaller scale, very compromised or compromising characters like Euros, Littlefinger, so on, but she's at the head of the heap right now. And she kind of has to be dealt with so that in the last season, which is going to be the next season we get after this one, the focus can be on the White Walkers and dealing with that. Now, that's not me saying all sides will unite as one. Not necessarily. I'm sure there will still be backstabbing, though it'll still be a mess. But I think if the just story, forget what the characters have to focus on, but just narratively, if it's going to really make that struggle epic, it needs to kind of clear this off the board. Much in the same way that having the Red Wedding sort of removed the distraction of just Starks versus Lannisters and made you realize, oh, everything's much bigger than that. So they got rid of this distractingly small and petty feud to make you realize this story's much bigger. Kind of in the same way, we got to get Cersei gone so that we can deal with the final conflict primarily in the last season. So I say she goes. Now the question then becomes, how does she die? Or I suppose more specifically, who's going to kill her? Well, there's a couple of options as far as that goes. I don't know if he's the most likely, but he's kind of the one I'm pulling for, and that's Jaime. I think Cersei is going to go full-on Mad King. I think she is just going to wield the power she has like a cudgel, and she's going to start doing so much damage, and that once it becomes clear that they need to unite to fight against the Night King, and she won't do it, and her refusal to do it is going to endanger the entire nation of Westeros, I think Jaime's going to make the toughest decision he will ever have to make, and I think he's going to kill her. He might not. He might not have the stones to do it. He might never get the opportunity to do it. He might do something to kill them both because maybe he would know he couldn't live with himself after having done it. But we'll see. Other options available for killing Cersei. Obviously, Arya Stark wants her and is going down to get her. I'm gonna come back to Arya overall. Some other choices, maybe Sansa, but I'm not sure Sansa ending up down in King's Landing again is really something that is kind of in the cards. I think she would really desperately be avoiding that unless something major shifts. So I think those are the two best options, either Arya or Jaime. I'm putting my money on Jaime right now. Well, that's if it's personal. I suppose they could get rid of her in a much bigger way. I mean, much like she took out so many with that explosion at the end of the last season. But if they do something like that, I mean, the dragons could just come in and firebomb King's Landing and that be it. But I think they're going to want to go smaller and more personal with that one. So I mentioned Arya, going to come back to her. I know a lot of people who think she's not going to make it to the end of the show. And I'm going to talk, when I talk about characters living, not living, both for the season and for the show overall. Maybe it's just because I desperately don't want to see the Starks suffer too much more than they already have. Here's what I'll say about Arya. Her story does not end happily. I don't think that necessarily means she has to die. I could see her either wrapping up her sort of assassination mission or failing to do it and then taking stock of what she's become and what she's done, just basically leaving. Not no goodbyes, no, and she just leaves because she realizes she's not fit for the world that is going to be rebuilt in the wake of everything once the whole thing wraps up. So her story is going to end unhappily. But again, I don't think it requires her to die. Though that may still happen. I do think she's far too damaged to just be sticking around after this. Jon, I think Jon's going to make it to the end of the show. If for no other reason than we killed him once already. Killing him again is not going to have the same kind of impact. It's just not. Daenerys, I think probably. I would be... Well, and if Daenerys goes, it's going to be like massive blaze of glory, like her facing down the Night King or something. But I think she makes it. Tyrion's probably gonna die. I think Tyrion is, but I don't think Tyrion's gonna die until the last season. But I do think he's probably gonna die. He's probably gonna have like a big noble moment. Or actually, you know what? I need to backtrack now. I could see Tyrion killing Cersei. I could see that one happening if he got the chance. But I don't see Tyrion making it to the very end. I'll tell you what, it's tough to call, and I'm jumping around. I'm going to keep jumping around. There's lots of characters I'm not going to talk about, and I'm just going to keep going until I run out of steam. I'll tell you a character, and I say this, and it sounds like a joke or wish list, but I'm kind of serious. I want Lady Mormont to end up on the Iron Throne at the end of all this. Because think about it. Unless they're just going to break up the kingdoms and have them all be ruled individually by the local families, which is probably what Daenerys would want. But if someone is actually going to rule, if the Iron Throne is just not flat out destroyed, which now that I'm saying that, maybe it would be, that would make sense. But if it isn't, who's going to rule? Jon's not really a ruler. Jon's, he's a warrior. He can lead soldiers. He's not ruler for a kingdom. Daenerys, I don't know. Daenerys very much wants to upset the status quo and change everything. I'm not sure how much she wants to be in charge once that happens. Lady Mormont, I think that is one person Daenerys could be on board with taking over that seat. And I, for one, I'd love that. I really would. So who else we got? I mentioned Jaime. Yeah, I think I've said everything I'm already going to say about Jaime. The Hound. Okay, the Hound has to kill Frankenmountain. I mean, he just does. They have to face off each other. And again, I don't think they're going to kill the Hound just because, like Jon, he went presumed dead, and for a longer stretch of time. So to bring him back and just to kill him again, not that this show is like somehow above disappointing its audience, but it never does it in a masochistic way, which is kind of the way The Walking Dead goes about killing off characters. So I think that he's going to get that face off, because I think a lot of us kind of felt that, when, the Mountain kind of died, but then came back, and then it looked like the Hound was dead. It was like, we're never going to get that face-off between them. Well, they're both still alive now, in some form. So, that fight has to happen, and he needs to win. Oh, general thing coming back to Arya. I think everyone's calling this already. If you paid attention to the next time on Game of Thrones, yeah, she's going to run into Nymeria. That's probably happening next episode, which is a pleasant surprise, because I had a video I did a couple years ago about dangling plot threads that I actually was expecting would never going to get tied up. Nymeria was one of them, so that makes me happy to see that finally come back. Or, I presume it is. I'm taking it as a foregone conclusion at this point. Sansa, I don't know. Sansa could really go one of two ways right now. And I know what I would like to have happen, and I know what I'm afraid is going to happen. What I would like to have happen is that, the fact that her experience is so vastly different from Jon's, is that Jon recognizes the value of what she brings to the table, and the two of them work together, because they're basically like each one half of like the best ruler ever if they could just work in conjunction. He has all the nobility. She has a lot of political savvy at this point because of what she's seen and what she's been through. What I'm afraid is going to happen is that she is going to come to the conclusion that Jon is too pig-headed to do things that she views as being necessary, and she's going to fall in with Littlefinger, and they're going to do things to make us hate her. And I really don't want them to do that, because it took a long time for me to like Sansa. Like, again, years ago I did this list. These lists are all out of date. But when I did a list a while back of my least favorite characters, Sansa was on it. And at the time, that was a very sincere placement. She wouldn't make that list now. I really enjoy her as a character, but it took a long time for me to like her. Could we not just all over that? I'm gonna make the call that Brienne is not gonna die, because it just, for me, it fits the kind of the weird, sometimes poetic irony of the world of Westeros, which is that she, as the Shining Knight, is by far probably the one most willing to die for any given cause that she's in. But I think in a way that almost makes it bizarrely fitting if she never did, because she's the one most willing to lay her life on the line, but she'll survive at the end. I'm not sure Samwell makes it past the end of the season, because he's getting the information out of that library now, and plot-wise, that's gonna kind of be his function fulfilled. The story's not gonna need him after that. I think he might go. I think they might cut him as dead weight. And there's an easy solution to that. His father, tracks him down and catches up with him, and then that whole thing goes sour. Bet you they kill each other. Benjen's gonna have to die, like for real die, and for my money, Bran has to kill him, because it's gonna be like a weird, he starts falling under the control of the Night's King, and Bran, who was saved by him, is gonna have to be the one to end his life, something along those lines. I flip a coin on whether or not Bran makes it through this season. Next season, he might go. Lady Olenna Tyrell, not sure. She's going to make it through the season. She's going to see Cersei. She's going to outlive Cersei. I'm going to say that. That she's going to see Cersei brought down and laid low. After that, I don't think she dies, but she kind of will effectively exit the story. Because once we get into taking on the White Walkers, there won't be anything for her to do. Dorne, I don't know. I don't care. The Sand Snakes and that woman who is taking over the kingdom, I just don't care. I guess they die. Maybe they either piss off Daenerys, or maybe they just end up being fodder for the White Walkers, just to show, it's all getting real now. Bronn's gonna live, because Bronn's not noble and he knows when to run away from a fight. Bronn lives. Betcha he's not even there at the final confrontation stuff next season. I would really like for Davos to live, so that he can just be the new right hand of whoever is left standing to run stuff. Varys, I don't know. Once the more political intrigue end of things is wrapped up, he kind of won't have anything to do, kind of a bit like Lady Olenna in that way. Oh, Littlefinger. Littlefinger's gonna die. He has to die. And I think Sansa's gotta kill him. Even if he manages to bring her under his sway or whatever, he's gonna do something that's gonna be a breaking point for her, and she's gonna kill him. And lastly, Euron's gonna die, and Theon's gonna kill him defending Yara. So there we go. That's all of that. It just felt nice to just do something that's just fun and just throw stuff out there and not have to think really carefully about the implication of everything I'm talking about. Am I using my words correctly? Am I properly expressing things? No, let's just fun. Who's gonna live? Who's gonna die? What are your thoughts on any of the stuff I said? Any characters I forgot to mention? What do you think is gonna go down? Whatever you see, I think part of the reason I didn't like to do speculation in Game of Thrones before is because there were people who could have read the book who could have spoiled stuff for me. You can't do it now. Ha ha, you highfalutin readers. In any case, I don't know where that came from. That was weird. Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check me out on Twitter at Council of Geeks. Give a listen to the Council of Geeks podcast, available on iTunes and Stitcher. I am also one half of the Punch Like a Girl podcast, also available on iTunes and Stitcher. Until next time, this council is adjourned.